Coach, how's the first couple days of fall camp been for you?
Good. I think it's exciting to see some of the new players and the transfers and just our guys having fun. I think ultimately when we're playing, I mean, fall camp's hard. It should be hard, but you're still dealing with kids, so they say funny things, they do funny things, and they enjoy it, which brings the joy in us as well. Ultimately, you forget sometimes why you coach football, but I think as long as it's not too hot, practice is a lot of fun.
Are there any funny moments that stick out to you so far that you can share? Or?
I don't know that I can share, but normally we meet a lot, so sometimes the meetings get a little crazy at night, but or typically when you start eating at the dining hall, stomachs are rolling a little bit in our meetings because they're getting used to it again, but I'm sure there'll be some more funny things come about.
Talking to some of the players already, they're just, raving about Sean Chambers and Tommy Law just because they both bring different things to the table. The idea of potentially running like a 2-quarterback system, could you see something like that happening this fall? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately you try to play your 11 best guys, 11 best athletes, and get everybody involved. I think we saw that last year at all the games we played. By the end, our guys that were starting every Saturday were pretty beat up, and you want to play more guys and give them different roles, and it creates a good atmosphere when guys are involved. And they're competing right now, and we'll see what happens. I think it's ever changing, but they're both getting better, which is the key. I mean, they both have different skill sets, so ultimately it's about what's best for our offense. And if that's both of them out there, who knows? Maybe we'll put 3 quarterbacks out there and see what happens. See if all 3 of them can throw passes.
Can you speak on those skill sets of just what both of them bring to the table, and maybe what you've seen for these 2 days and kind of what you expect?
Yeah, Sean is a very big. I mean, I think he's 230 pounds and can sling it. He was going to get drafted out of high school as a catcher, and then Sight told him he doesn't want to. He's going to go to Wyoming and play quarterback, and he's a hard runner, And Tommy is, and Sean's got a very good ability to be very, very calm. No different than Tommy, but Tommy is a 4.0 engineering student, so he sees things as 2 + 2 = 4, and I think there's multiple ways you can get to 4, and that's probably how Sean sees it sometimes. And Tommy is just lightning quick, 200 pounds and can get out right now. And Sean gets his momentum going. Chambers, it's hard to stop.
Is there a target number of carries for your quarterbacks during a game, or like a range you want to get to?
Not really. No, we don't think of that. I mean, ultimately, you want to keep your quarterback safe, and I think there in the playoffs was probably, 35 carries for Tommy in South Dakota State. It's probably a little too much. It's Tebow-like, which isn't ideal, but, we had some injuries, and ultimately you're just trying to do what it takes to win. If you can hand it to the guy that's played running back his whole life and let the quarterback throw, that's ideal. But you also got to do what fits their skill sets.
Speaking of running backs, who's been stepping up in that group?
Oh, I'd say all of them, honestly. I think, starting with the older guys, Lane Summers looked good. I think he had a heck of a summer. He's healthy. He's gotten faster, which is good, and more explosive. I think Kagan, obviously coming in, is a stud and is a great kid, and they have good chemistry in that room. I think Elijah Elliott's put on weight and looks good, bigger, stronger, faster kind of deal. I think Jared White, a freshman, is a guy who essentially comes in and is a bigger guy as a freshman, but very smart, hard worker, all those things. He was here this summer quite a bit, but he understands football, which is huge. In that position, it's in underwear and shorts. It is what it is. They all kind of look good, right? I think that position, no different than Isaiah in the past. It's about toughness, right? Can you take that beating week in and week out and then bring your body back and do things on Saturday? So I think right now they all look good. Garrett Kuhn looks good. I mean, he's growing. Again, I think the thing that's impressive with that entire room is their ability, how much the summer they've changed their bodies physically, the way they look, losing fat, gaining muscle, and just speed and quickness, which is what you want, right? Those guys got to be the physical freaks on the field somewhat to take that beating for an entire season.
Going back to the quarterbacks a little bit, you got your older guy in Sean, younger guy in Tommy. I guess what's your approach to kind of developing a quarterback, especially a young guy?
Well, I think it's probably different than a lot of people in some aspect. I think you got to coach guys differently. They all have different minds and different backgrounds and different upbringings and different skill sets. And I think it's such a position in sports. You could have a Peyton Manning or a Tom Brady who's probably not a great athlete overall compared to the NFL, but then you can have a Cam Newton or a Michael Vick, and in sports you don't have that big a comparison at a lot of positions. So it's all about your mind, and I think some guys you got to try to make tougher, by coaching them hard. Some guys you got to pump up. You know, I think it just depends. I think for the example I used with Tommy, he wants to analyze everything. You know what I mean? That's the world he lives in with engineering and all that. And Sean's more of a free spirit, if you will, at times, and is calm and wants to play with feel. I think ultimately the great ones have the ability to play with feel, but they also have the ability to play analytically too. When they're in this coverage, I got to go here with the ball because of whatever, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and both Tommy and Coach Regan have mentioned the double repping and how crucial that's been. I guess from your perspective, how important is that?
Unbelievable. I can't see doing it any other way. I think ultimately every good team we've ever been a part of, all of us in some aspect has had a good quarterback. And your quarterbacks, when you double rep, there's 4 guys getting reps at the same amount of reps. You know what I mean? And you're building that over years, because they're forced to know instead of just watching. You know, and I think that's a position that is can be stressful if you allow it to, but you put guys out there and see how they handle bad situations and see the decisions they make. So I love it.
How much?
One more. You mentioned the running back group earlier, but what about that wide receiver group? Who's standing out there?
Oh yeah, standing out. Well, I mean, obviously Willie. Willie's been here. He works his butt off. He's a leader. He's played a lot of football. But the thing that makes Willie good is he shows up every day ready to work. The same thing that made Lance good. Lance was talented, right? But Lance, regardless if he had a game of 200-something yards, he was showing up on Monday ready to work. You know, and he was trying to get better. And that's the same thing with Willie. He's never satisfied. And he's emotional. He loves it. You know, and that's what you have to have at receiver. And then obviously all the other guys that we have, the transfers. You look at CT coming from Kentucky, a guy that's, you know, was in the SEC and now he's coming here and he loves our guys. You know, the first thing he says, everybody knows my name. I love this place, Bozeman. Football's a big deal. You know what I mean? That's huge just for a guy to see that. And he gets along with the guys. Just an example. And then we've got some freshmen from Christian and Taco. Obviously are learning, but talented kids. And Robbie's changing his body and working hard as a transfer, and Malik just got here, learning the system. But I think what we've got in that room right now, those are just a few of the guys that are doing well, is guys that are willing to be coached, you know, are willing to listen and aren't satisfied, right, with just having a little bit of success here and there. They want to be the best room and the best version of themselves than anybody else in the country.
How much would you say your coaching style and philosophy have kind of evolved since last year?
Enjoy it more. I think last year, you know, you get to this, at least that's what my wife says. She feels like I'm enjoying it more. The second half of the season, you know what I mean? You got to realize you're essentially you're playing recess every day, and I'm coaching it. Ultimately, that's what we're doing. If I wanted to put a suit on every day and go sit at a desk, I don't know if I'd enjoy that very much, you know. So I think from that standpoint, I want to have fun. And I think when you have fun, the kids, it changes your body. You know what I mean? When you're stressed, and these guys get enough stress from fans love Montana State football. You know, the state does, and the kids feel that at times. So on our end, we got to have fun, you know, and ultimately they just got to execute what we ask them to. It's my job to put them in the right place. It's my job to get the guys the ball that need the ball. And it's my job to handle all those stresses and the media and the fans and all that. They just go out there and execute the best of their ability. And then if I'm not doing that for them, then I won't be here, you know, and they just got to show up and compete.
You know, it seems like RPO and quarterback run have been such important parts of your playbook and your philosophy. And I guess how fair is that? And then also, you know, why kind of, you know, has that been such a hallmark?
I think ultimately it's what kind of guy you have. You know, if I had Tom Brady, I'm sure we would do a lot of things that required the quarterback to make changes at the line of scrimmage and throw the ball over the field in some aspect, but it's just kind of who we have. And I think our system can, when we recruit, quarterback's hard enough to find, right? And they're different types. It's usually the mental aspect of it. So if I can recruit a 5'8" guy from Butte, don't tell me, I guess you can post that. Yeah, tell me he's 5'8", okay? And he's a great athlete. I can fit the offense to him. Or a taller guy, let's say Tucker Rovig last year, right? You take a guy like that who is more of a drop back, smart, is in coaching now, right? You want to be able to fit it to that without changing things and use the same terminology so they can learn it quick. So they're not thinking on the field, they're just doing.
It seemed like that first play of the title game when Tommy fakes the run and then throws it to Lance, like it seemed like almost like your playbook and your style almost like crystallized in one moment. Is that, I don't know how fair that is, but did it feel like that a little bit?
Yeah, at times. I mean, I kind of see it as, I think probably a lot of coordinators are math people or angles of some aspects, so that's kind of how I see it. You're just playing numbers, you know, and I think ultimately as simple it is, you use the width, you use the vertical passing game, right? You use the width when it comes to the run game, and you use RPOs to, hey, I'm going to look at this linebacker. If he plays the run, I'm going to throw it. If he goes deep, I'm going to run it. You know, and and just what you're trying to do is set your guys up for success. So you're not doing one or the other when you shouldn't be.
Coach,
So,
overall, what are your goals that you want to see accomplished by the end of this fall camp?
I want to see a good team. Speaking offense specifically, I want to see a very close-knit group, right? And guys, they want to succeed, right? They want to have recognition. I mean, that's just reality of the world we live in. But I want the team and this offense to be bigger than them, and they're willing to do. If I ask a receiver one game because it just doesn't fit in the game plan to block 80 plays, he does that, knowing that next week he might get the ball 80 times. You know what I mean? And that's why I want to grow, and just I want to see our guys. We go over to the dining hall in the mornings, at lunch, at dinner and stuff. I don't want to see them all eating in the same clips. I want to see them moving around, older guys, young guys. And when you're an older guy, sometimes that's hard. Freshman can frustrate you a little bit, right? So, but I want to see them get to know them, you know, and build that chemistry. Because last year, that's what we had. You know what I mean? Whether it was offense, defense. You guys saw that with our quarterback room last year. It didn't matter who was starting. Those guys were so happy for them to succeed. And that's what you want. You know, that's what this place has been built on.
I guess bouncing off that chemistry, when you look at that offensive line, they've made very clear that they all have a chip on their shoulder, but they're all using it together as motivation, and it's going to be all of them together throughout this entire fall camp. Maybe just talk on that and maybe how they're kind of leading the wave on that chemistry.
Yeah, they are unbelievable guys. That entire room, it's a pretty unique room. It's a room that's is very talented. Probably doesn't have a lot of the awards because there hasn't been a ton of guys that play in there, a ton of snaps, but very good. So they're trying to build that, right? And they don't want to be singled out. And I think great O-lines do that, you know, in some aspect. And they got to work together. And I think when you do those things off the field, right, there comes the heat of the moment where you can't think in a game and it's a big 4th and 1 or whatever, and you got to know your buddy beside you, especially up front, is going to do his job, and you trust him, right? And you're all doing it together, and you don't get in this world where, well, I did my job, he didn't. That's not what you want, you know. And I think they are committed to growing as a group in a unit, and I think they're committed to helping each other out, which ultimately, if you can have that up front, you can be pretty good.
Kind of along the same lines of chip on your shoulder, how motivated were you after some of the struggles of Weber, Montana last year to kind of prove to people, you know, look, our offense can be really solid, I can make really good plays?
Yeah, and I look at it, it's not for my personal, you know, we struggle. I don't care what necessarily you guys say the struggles and all, that's your job, or fans, it's about them. I want them to succeed, you know, and that's what hurts most when you go into a game you don't score, or I emotionally don't do something that I should have, or whatever it is, right? You feel for the kids, because I want them to have success, because they work their butts off, you know what I mean? And when we go into a game and score 10 points, the only thing is, when your defense is really good, it's whatever, you win the game, you're ready to rock and roll, and ultimately we just got to score one more point, you know. Hopefully we can not do that every game, it'd be stressful, but no, I think motivation, yes, but motivation for them, because they work so hard. I want to see them succeed.
One more for me. You know, working with Coach B in last year and in his first year, obviously making it to the title game. I guess, what did you kind of learn from him last year? And I guess, what was it kind of to work with him?
It's really easy to make it a national championship. Just kidding. It's funny, you know, you see somebody, how old is Coach B again? 55? 45?
No comment.
No comment. Okay. You see a man like that, right? Has a family, has been a great family man. Seeing him operate in a season and understanding, yes, this is a huge deal. We all know that, right? It's football. It's everybody. It's you got to win or you don't have a job in some aspect, right? But we sign up for it. But to see him such a good family man on top of that, with all those things going on, is pretty unique. As a young guy who doesn't have kids and a family, that's pretty awesome to see. But just seeing him evolve, you know, how many people in their world have a job that when you're his age that you think you know it all and you do what you've been doing instead of evolving, right? Or listening to other people. Sometimes I think he's listening to you, like, why are you listening to me? You have way more experience than I do. But he does. He takes everybody's angle and makes the most logical decision. So it's unique to see how motivated he is as a mid-older man. There we go, right? Mid-older man, to see all of us assistants succeed and grow, see all the players succeed and grow, and just deal with anything. As a head coach, you have people coming from all different angles all the time with problems, issues, whatever it is, right? And he's motivated. He wants to keep winning. It's just one day at a time, you know what I mean? And he treats it the same thing, same day, does the same thing every day. So.
Just one more for me, just like, how good would you say Tommy is at the decision making with the RPO and deciding to keep it or
good?
Or
yeah,
it
I think Tommy. I mean, I think when you look at quarterbacks, most of the time how they make decisions off the field is how they're going to be on the field. I heard a quote the other day that how you play golf is how you live your life. So ultimately, I try to hit as far as I can, which probably fits the way I call plays too. okay? Chuck it deep. But that's how Tommy is. I think quarterbacks are the same way. How they live their life off the field, it's going to carry over on the field, right? Because you're just training. It's not a matter of you go to class every day and that makes you a good quarterback. It's the decision when you're tired to keep working and going to class and paying attention when you don't want to go. Same thing on the field. When you don't want to practice, you got to push through that and you got to learn those skills. You know, and Tommy's such a great kid and is so motivated. He's so motivated. He didn't get to play in that game, not for himself, but for this team. You know what I mean? And I think ultimately when you have a guy like that, in the heat of the moment when things are going wrong, you're just going to do what you're supposed to do. You know, make the right decision, know what the right from wrong is. You know what I mean? Because that's what we've taught him. So I think it helps a big time. I think he's very good at his decision making from that standpoint because he understands when to take risks and he understands the rules and studies football. So when there are outliers, he can not make a bad play worse.